Love is beautiful. It's exhilarating. It's the soundtrack to every movie, the reason behind half the books ever written, and the fuel behind every late-night text. But let's be real, it's also really, really hard. And today, I want to talk about why. Love is hard because it exists in a space of deep uncertainty. We often walk into it hoping for guarantees, some kind of promise that if we give our all, it will work out. But the truth is, there are no safety nets. You can love someone with everything you have, and they can still walk away. That lack of control, that unpredictability, can make love feel fragile, even dangerous. It's like walking a tightrope when all we want is solid ground. The fear of loss or rejection makes even the most beautiful connection feel unstable. We also tend to expect love to be easy if it's real. We think that the right person will understand us without much effort, that it should flow effortlessly. But real love isn't just chemistry, it's compatibility, communication, and compromise. We confuse the spark with the substance. The truth is, love requires showing up every day, even when it's hard, even when you're tired, even when it's inconvenient. And in a world obsessed with instant gratification, we often lack the patience and emotional stamina love demands. Another reason love feels so difficult is because we carry baggage from the past. Old wounds, betrayals, or heartbreaks follow us into new connections. We start guarding ourselves before anyone's even tried to hurt us. That self-protection might keep us safe, but it also keeps us distant. Add to that the habit of falling for someone's potential instead of their reality, and you've got a recipe for disappointment. We want the fairy tale, but we end up stuck in a story we're trying to rewrite over and over. Most of all, we treat love like something we find rather than something we build. We focus on discovering the perfect person rather than becoming someone capable of deep, healthy love. We expect others to fill the gaps inside us, to make us feel whole, but no one can carry that responsibility. Love isn't about being completed by someone else. It's about two people who are already growing, choosing to walk the journey together. And yes, it's hard, but that's what makes it meaningful. We grow up surrounded by movies, books, and songs that paint love as effortless and magical. The stories often show two people locking eyes across a crowded room. And from that moment on, everything just falls into place. We begin to believe that if love is real, it should feel easy, that the right person will just understand us without much effort, without conflict, without miscommunication. This belief creates unrealistic expectations, and when real-life relationships don't match the fantasy, we start to question whether the love is genuine or worth the effort. In truth, love is not effortless. It requires consistent energy, patience, and emotional honesty. It's about two people choosing each other every single day, not just when things feel good, but especially when they don't. Love asks you to show up when you're tired, to listen when you're frustrated, has been, and to be kind when you're feeling misunderstood. That doesn't mean love is a struggle all the time, but it's far from the smooth, uninterrupted joy we're often promised by the media. The idea of perfect compatibility is another illusion we buy into. We think if we find someone with shared interests or similar personalities, the relationship will run itself. But compatibility is not about sameness. It's about how two people handle differences. It's how they adapt, support, and grow together. Even the most aligned partners will have disagreements, different love languages, and personal wounds to work through. What makes love last is the effort both people are willing to invest in understanding and evolving with each other. Real love is not a static state. It's a daily action. It doesn't thrive on grand romantic gestures alone, but on the quiet decisions to be patient, to forgive, to compromise, to speak up with kindness. When we let go of the fantasy and embrace love for what it truly is, complex, raw, and deeply human, we begin to see its real beauty. It's not perfect, but it's powerful because it's built, not found. Love is hard because it doesn't come with certainty. No matter how much you care for someone or how deeply you invest in the relationship, there's always a risk. You can give your time, energy, and heart to someone and still find that they don't feel the same way or that circumstances pull you apart. That fear of the unknown creates anxiety, and suddenly love feels less like something joyful and more like something to protect yourself from. We crave guarantees in a world where feelings can shift, and that makes love feel unstable. We also tend to have unrealistic expectations of what love should feel like. Many people assume that if love is right, it should always be easy, exciting, and effortless. But in reality, love often asks us to be patient, vulnerable, and willing to compromise. It challenges our pride, it reveals our fears, and it tests our communication. Most relationships don't fall apart because people stop loving each other. They fall apart because people know how to manage the difficulties that come with love. Has been. That gap between what we imagine and what we experience makes love feel much harder than we expect. Another reason love feels so difficult is because many of us carry emotional wounds from past relationships. We enter new situations guarded, suspicious, or afraid of getting hurt again. Sometimes we fall for potential we see in someone rather than who they really are, hoping love will change them or fix what's broken. In doing so, we ignore red flags and end up repeating the same painful cycles. Without healing ourselves first, we keep looking for someone else to complete us. And that never leads to the kind of deep, secure connection we truly want. Ultimately, love becomes easier when we stop trying to find someone perfect and start focusing on being emotionally ready for a healthy relationship. Love isn't about being saved or completed by another person. It's about showing up as your full self and building something real with another whole person. It's about mutual effort, honest communication, and shared values. Love will always come with challenges, but those challenges can feel meaningful when you're with someone who's willing to face them with you. And in the end, that's what makes love worth it. Not because it's easy, but because it's real. Sometimes love feels hard because deep down, we're afraid of being alone. That fear leads us to hold on to relationships that don't truly serve us just because the silence of being singles louder than the noise of an unhealthy connection. We convince ourselves that something is better than nothing, even if that something makes us feel anxious, undervalued, or constantly on edge. The truth is, being with the wrong person can feel lonelier than being on your own, but fear has a way of clouding our judgment and convincing us to stay. When we're afraid of solitude, we start to overlook the red flags. We see warning signs in the way we're treated, the way we're spoken to, or the way we're made to feel, but we dismiss them. We say things like, "No one is perfect," or "Maybe I'm just being too sensitive." We downplay our needs and justify mistreatment because the idea of starting over, or worse, staying alone, feels unbearable. We wear hope like a blindfold, pretending things will change, even when deep down we know they probably won't. This fear doesn't just affect who we stay with, it also shapes who we choose in the first place. When we're afraid of being alone, we don't date from a place of self-worth. We date from a place of scarcity. We become more focused on being chosen than on choosing wisely. We settle for crumbs and call it a feast, telling ourselves that if we just love hard enough, things will improve. But real love doesn't grow from fear. It grows from freedom. The freedom to walk away from what hurts and wait for what feels right. The hardest part is realizing that choosing yourself, even when it means being alone, is not a failure. It's a powerful act of love. It's saying, I'd rather be alone than poorly loved. And that shift is everything. Because the moment you stop clinging to love out of fear, you start making space for the kind of love that's actually worth having. The kind that meets you where you are, sees you clearly, and doesn't ask you to shrink just to be kept. Love becomes incredibly difficult when we expect another person to fix what's broken inside us. Many of us carry pain, insecurities, and emotional wounds that we've never really dealt with. And instead of facing those things ourselves, we place that responsibility on the person we're in a relationship with. We want them to fill the emptiness, to make us feel enough, to reassure us constantly when we don't feel lovable. But love doesn't work like that. It can support us, comfort us, and inspire growth, but it cannot repair the parts of us we're not willing to heal ourselves. When we rely on someone else for our emotional stability, we give them too much power over our inner world. Their approval becomes our self-esteem. Their mood becomes our peace. Their presence becomes our sense of safety. And when something goes wrong, when they're distant, when they're struggling, or when they pull away, we crumble. That kind of attachment isn't love. It's dependency dressed up as devotion. It's asking someone to carry not just the relationship, but also the emotional weight we haven't been able to carry on our own. This mindset doesn't only exhaust the person we're with, it also creates a fragile foundation for love. Any small conflict starts to feel like a threat to our identity. Every disagreement feels like rejection. We read too deeply into their words, look for hidden meanings in their silence, and constantly ask for proof that we're still wanted. That pressure is overwhelming for both people. One feels constantly responsible for the other's emotional state, while the other feels powerless without constant reassurance. Real love starts when we take responsibility for our own healing. It begins when we stop asking someone else to complete us and begin the work of becoming whole ourselves. A healthy relationship is two people standing side by side, each grounded in their own sense of self, choosing to love one another. Not out of need, but out of want. That kind of love isn't just sustainable, it's freeing because it allows both people to grow, breathe, and support each other without losing themselves in the process. Love often becomes difficult because we struggle with real communication. Not just casual conversations or surface-level talk, but the kind of deep, vulnerable expression that builds trust and emotional safety. Many people don't know how to say what they truly feel. They hide their needs out of fear of seeming needy or weak, and they avoid sharing their pain because they're afraid of being misunderstood or judged. As a result, feelings pile up, resentment grows, and emotional distance sets in, even when love is still present. We think we're communicating because we're talking, but there's a huge difference between talking and truly expressing ourselves. Saying, I'm fine, when we're hurt, doesn't move the relationship forward. Hoping our partner just picks up on our signals or reads our mind only leads to frustration. Real love requires honesty. It takes courage to say things like, I felt hurt when that happened, or I need more reassurance from you, or even, I'm scared of losing you. But without that openness, love can't deepen. It just survives on assumptions and guesswork. When communication breaks down, even the smallest problems can become huge. A missed call becomes a lack of care. A forgotten errand turns into a sign of disrespect. And often, we don't clarify our feelings or ask for what we need because we fear that if we speak up, we'll push the other person away. So we stay silent. But silence is not protection. It's a barrier. Over time, it builds walls where there should be bridges, and eventually, the connection that once felt so close begins to feel cold and distant. Learning to communicate with honesty and vulnerability changes everything. It doesn't mean you'll never disagree or feel hurt, but it gives you both the tools to navigate those moments with love and maturity. It creates a space where both people feel seen, heard, and safe to be themselves. That kind of emotional intimacy is rare, but it's also what makes love feel real and lasting. And while it might feel uncomfortable at first, it's always worth it. Because true connection can't exist without true communication. Love becomes especially hard when we fall for someone's potential instead of who they actually are. It's easy to get swept up in the idea of what someone could become if they just changed a few things or finally healed from their past. Apology has been. We picture how kind they'll be once they're less guarded, how stable they'll feel once they're more focused, or how present they'll become once they're done chasing distractions. We start investing not in the relationship we have, but in the future we imagine. And in doing that, we slowly start drifting away from reality. When we're caught up in someone's potential, we often overlook patterns that are already hurting us. We excuse bad behavior by calling it temporary. We downplay our own needs and tell ourselves to be more patient, more understanding, more loving, believing that if we just hold on long enough, they'll grow into the partner we need. But people aren't projects, and love isn't supposed to feel like a constant waiting game. Hoping for change that may never come doesn't make us loyal. It makes us stuck in a cycle of frustration and false hope. The truth is, potential is a fantasy that exists in our mind. It's not something we can touch, build a life, or feel safe in. We can encourage someone's growth, but we can't force it. And the longer we stay attached to a version of them that only exists in theory, the more we miss out on the reality of what's actually in front of us. Sometimes the hardest part of love is accepting that someone might not be ready, willing, or able to become the person we need, even if they have the potential to be. Letting go of potential means choosing truth over illusion, has been. It means being honest with ourselves about what we're really experiencing, not just what we wish was happening. It's realizing that love is not about fixing or waiting, but about meeting each other fully in the present. When we stop trying to change someone and instead accept who they are right now, we either find peace in the relationship or the clarity to walk away. Either way, we free ourselves from loving someone who only exists in our imagination. Love becomes difficult when we carry the weight of past pain into our present relationships. Many of us have been hurt before, through betrayal, abandonment, or disappointment. And those wounds don't just disappear when someone new walks into our life. We bring them with us, often unconsciously, and they shape how we see others and how we respond to even the smallest gestures. We become cautious, guarded, and slow to trust, not because the new person has done something wrong, but because someone else did. That emotional baggage shows up in the way we interpret love. A delayed reply starts to feel like rejection. A change in tone sounds like criticism. A little distance begins to trigger panic, even when there's no real threat. We start to doubt the the sincerity of someone's affection, question their intentions, and constantly look for signs that something is going wrong, even when things are going right. In this way, our past pain becomes a lens distorts our present reality, making it nearly impossible to experience love without fear or suspicion. What makes it even harder is that we often don't realize we're doing it. We think we're protecting ourselves, being smart, or staying emotionally safe. But in trying to avoid getting hurt again, we end up pushing people away or sabotaging genuine connections. We may test our partner's patience, demand constant reassurance, or hold back our affection out of fear that we'll give too much and lose everything. This kind of emotional defense may have helped us survive heartbreak before, but it keeps us from fully living in the love we have now. Healing is the only way to break this cycle. It doesn't mean forgetting what happened or pretending it didn't hurt. It means acknowledging the pain, learning from it, and then choosing not to let it control your future. When we do the inner work to heal, we begin to see love not as something to fear, but as something to embrace. We stop expecting every person to repeat the past and start allowing ourselves to experience love with fresh eyes and an open heart. Only then that can love feel as safe and freeing as it's meant to be. Love is often seen as the one thing in life that should always feel good. We associate it with warmth, comfort, passion, and joy, and while those feelings are very real parts of love, they are not the whole story. Love isn't just about the butterflies or the cozy moments. It also shows up in the uncomfortable spaces where we are forced to face ourselves. Real love doesn't avoid difficulty. It doesn't run from tension or discomfort. In fact, it brings those things to the surface, not to break us down, but to reveal who we are beneath the surface. When you're deeply connected to someone, they become a mirror. They reflect not just your best qualities, but also your insecurities, your fears, and your hidden wounds. It's in love that we often find ourselves reacting emotionally in ways we didn't expect. We might become defensive, distant, or overly dependent. These reactions aren't signs that love is failing. They're signs that it's challenging us to grow. Love has a way of poking at the parts of us that still need healing, and in doing so, it invites us to become more honest, more self-aware, and more compassionate. This can feel incredibly difficult, especially when we expected love to be our escape from pain, not the thing that brings it up. But that's the paradox of real love. It doesn't always make you feel good in the moment, but it ultimately pushes you towards something better. It teaches patience when you want to rush, understanding when you want to blame, and forgiveness when you'd rather shut down. In these moments, love is not easy or soft, but it is doing its most powerful work by helping you become a stronger and more emotionally mature version of yourself. The growth that love demands can be exhausting, which is why some people walk away when things get hard. But the ones who stay, who choose to grow together through those tough moments, often find something deeper on the other side. It's not about avoiding all the struggles, but about moving through them with mutual respect and a shared commitment. Love that lasts isn't defined by how easy it feels, but by how real it is. And real love has the courage to show up even when things aren't perfect. Love feels hard because we're so focused on finding the right person that we often forget to ask ourselves if we're truly ready to be in the kind of relationship we dream of. We chase ideal partners, create checklists, and imagine perfect scenarios, hoping someone will come along and fix everything in our lives. But love isn't a reward we get for searching long enough or settling for someone close enough. It's something that grows when two people are emotionally ready, self-aware, and grounded enough to build it together. When we place all the emphasis on finding someone else, we avoid doing the work on ourselves. We expect our future partner to be patient, loving, secure, loyal, and emotionally intelligent. While we sometimes struggle with those very things ourselves, we want deep conversations but shy away from expressing our real feelings. We want someone who will understand us completely once the apology has been, but we haven't taken the time to understand our own patterns and fears. This imbalance creates frustration because we're looking for someone to meet standards we haven't yet met ourselves. The truth is, the love we attract often mirrors the love we're capable of giving. If we haven't learned to set healthy boundaries, we may keep attracting people who cross them. If we haven't healed from our past, we may continue falling for emotionally unavailable partners. Becoming the right person doesn't mean being perfect. It means being intentional, honest, and willing to grow. It means showing up for ourselves first so we know how to show up for someone else when the time comes. When we shift the focus from finding love to becoming love, everything changes. We stop chasing emotionally unavailable people. We stop settling for crumbs. We stop fearing rejection because we know our worth doesn't depend on being chosen. It depends on how we choose ourselves. Love becomes less about luck or timing and more about alignment. And when we finally meet someone who's also done the work, the connection feels less like a struggle and more like a peaceful meeting of two people who are ready. Not just to be loved, but to love well.